All right, thanks everybody, and good afternoon. Thanks for coming out here today. This is a spot where I stood almost 7 years ago when I was sworn in as mayor and talked about the importance of compassion as one of our core city values. I think everybody would agree since then compassion has become an even more integral and needed part of our country and our state, and it's certainly part of our city's culture as well. And Louisville's reputation as a compassionate city is now known around the world, with us being named an International Model City for Compassion 4 years in a row. We define compassion here as the work we do to help others reach their full human potential. And that work takes many, many forms. One is our Give a Day week of service, where we had 180,000 volunteers in acts of compassion this past April, a new world record. And then the Compassionate Schools Project, which is helping kids become learners, and better citizens. So the work of becoming an even more compassionate city also means standing up and speaking up for people who've been the victims of crime. That's why many of us here, or all of us here, and certainly myself, have been an enthusiastic supporter of Marsy's Law through our Domestic Violence Prevention Coordinating Council, and why I was proud to stand with Ashley and many, many people from throughout our Commonwealth in April at the base of the Big Four Bridge to show our support for Marsy's Law during National Crime Victims' Rights Week. We turned the lights of the Big Four Bridge purple in honor of crime victims. And in the months since then, it's been tremendously gratifying to see how many people from across our community have stepped up and added their own voice to those who are calling on our state legislature to pass Marsy's Law here in Kentucky. Locally, I want to thank President Yates and all the members of the Metro Council for their leadership. President Yates will introduce everybody who is here. In today's political climate, the fact that Marsy's Law enjoys strong bipartisan support tells you a great deal about what common sense legislation is and what all of our citizens support and want more of. The council resolution demonstrates Louisville's unwavering support for a constitutional amendment to Kentucky's Constitution. When it's enacted, Marsy's Law will allow us to join the 35 other states that have enacted laws that offers victims of crime, particularly violent crime, a stronger and more effective commitment to ensure their rights are preserved and protected, and that they're kept informed of key events in the case against the person they've accused. The people Marsy's Law will help have experienced the violation that goes along with being the victim of a crime. That's why Marsy's Law is critical, because it serves the causes of justice and compassion. I want to thank Ashley and her team and the entire legislative team from around the state and our counties for their tireless advocacy for Marsy's Law. And thanks again to the Metro Council for coming together to pass this resolution. And I join many others here in Louisville in urging all the members of the Kentucky legislature and Governor Bevin to support Marsy's Law in the next legislative session. Let's get this passed and put it before voters the next year. And let's make Marsy's Law the law of the land here in Kentucky. Thank you, and now I'll turn things over to President David Yates. David?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Mayor. As president of this body, I stand here with honor and gratitude, not only to my members that stand behind me, but to all the individuals who have stood up for victims. No one chooses to be a victim, but when you are chosen to be victimized, you deserve to have certain rights. And this council behind me and those that stay in chambers has voted unanimously to support this resolution calling for a constitutional amendment to protect victims' rights. We stand united together with the administration and so many elected officials at all levels of government to help fight for victims' rights. We're calling on the people, the constituents, to pick up your phone and call your elected representative at the state and say, please support this. This is too important. This is too important for the victims who otherwise don't have a voice. Too often, victims are overlooked. Too often, they don't have a seat at the table. We're going to change that. We're one of 15 states that have not passed this constitutional amendment. It's too long. Kentucky should not be left behind. Louisville will continue to push and fight for those that don't have a voice. Our victims deserve better. Our victims deserve this constitutional level of rights. I'm thankful for my colleagues behind me. I have Councilwoman Barbara Sexton Smith, Councilman Bill Hollander, Councilwoman Angela Leet, Councilwoman Jessica Green, Councilman Brett Ackerson, and Councilwoman Julie Denton, who are here standing behind me in this very cold weather. But 26 members support this. This was unanimously passed. In fact, on the floor, everyone asked to be a sponsor. We stand together, we stand united, and we stand with the victims. Thank you. And I would now like to introduce Councilwoman Julie Denton.
Thanks, David. Well, as David said, this really is a proud moment for Metro Council that we stood together, unified across the aisles from each other, and we voted unanimously for this piece of legislation. I want to thank Senator Whitney Westerfield, who was the sponsor this year and will be the sponsor, is my understanding, next year. And he's the chairman of the Judiciary Committee in the Senate, does a wonderful job, and he really has a heart for the victims across Kentucky. He wants to make sure that they do have a seat at the table. He wants to make sure that they are protected, that they have these constitutional rights, and that they're not forgotten. Folks who've been victimized need to be kept in the loop. They don't need to be re-victimized over again. They need to have that seat at the table, as David said. So my hope is that as we stood with a unified voice from Louisville, the largest city in the state, that it sends a message to Frankfort that this is important, this isn't political, and it's the right thing to do. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Ashley Christensen, and I'm the state director for Marsy's Law for Kentucky. I could talk to you about the specific rights that Marsy's Law for Kentucky will guarantee, like the right for victims to notice of court events, or the right for the victim to be present in the courtroom, and those are very important. But taking a step back, it's also very important to remember that by becoming a victim of crime, a person has had one of the very linchpins of humanity taken from them: choice. At its very essence, Marsy's Law is about our justice system providing those who have been harmed by crimes with basic, enforceable, constitutional rights so that he or she can begin to regain a sense of control over his or her life and heal. On behalf of Marsy's Law for Kentucky, I want to commend the Louisville Metro Council on working together in a bipartisan way. Not only have they sent a very powerful, unwavering message of support to Frankfort, but perhaps even more importantly, to the hundreds of thousands of Kentuckians who are victimized every year. Thank you very, very much.
Okay, any questions on this? Thank you all for coming.
This has been a Metro TV production, a public service of Louisville Metro government.